Good evening to all the viewers in India, an early morning to west of India, and probably a late evening to east of India. Namaste to one and all. My name is Prateek Solapur, and I take care of Canada operations and marketing initiatives for SkySendPay. I would like to welcome all the viewers for today's webinar on e-invoicing under GST, anchored by SkySendPay Private Limited, Bengaluru. SkySendPay is an invoice management and supply chain finance solution built on cloud using AI and blockchain. Little over 3 months ago, Government of India extended e-invoicing for all B2B transactions for enterprises having annual turnover of 50 crore and more. In the next few months, many more businesses, say 10 crore or even less, may be asked to adopt e-invoicing. Then there will be an immediate need for shift in business processes to become GST compliant. In this background, we sense a need to inform, to educate, and to share everything about e-invoicing under GST for all business leaders, accounting professionals, GST practitioners, students, and others. This is the reason why we are all here today. Once again, a warm welcome to all the participants. To begin with, I would like to thank Ayana Network, LCA, MS Associates for partnering with us for today's webinar. Also, would like to thank iVerbinden for being our marketing partners for today's event. We are all very proud to have you all partnering with us. In the next 40 minutes, we will listen to our speakers discuss on e-invoice and GST, blockchain and e-invoice, GSP-ASP collaboration, digital GST for tomorrow. We are very fortunate to have eminent speakers and industry experts on our panel today. Please join me in welcoming each of them in the order they are going to talk to us. We have Sri Sumit Agarwal, a chartered accountant, a partner at SRGA India. He is an experienced indirect tax manager with a demonstrated history of working in the consulting industry. He is most sought after professional for things related to customs, FTP, GST, central tax, and service tax. Today, he will talk to us about the fundamentals of e-invoicing and GST for small medium enterprises. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
We have Sri Rohit Ambedkar, the Director of Finance at Microsoft, who is joining us today from West Coast. He has a vast experience in technology and consulting industries. His specialties include leading digital transformation and automating finance and accounting processes. He is also a keynote speaker at industry events on the topics of automation, future of finance, AI, and blockchain. Today, he is going to educate us on the role of blockchain in e-invoicing. Welcome, sir.
Thanks, Prateek.
We have Sri Ramaswamy Iyer, the founder and CEO of Ayana Network. He is a serial entrepreneur with 25 years of experience in cash management and trade finance, providing solutions to some of the largest banks in India and across the globe. At Ayana Network, Ram has led the company with a vision to enable access to affordable finance for MSMEs. Today, Ayana Network is one of the largest supply chain finance platform in India. They are also the largest GST Suvidha provider in the country. In fact, every 1 in 4 e-invoices on GST network is facilitated by Ayana Network. Today, we have Ram, who is going to talk to us about GSP-ASP collaboration in simplifying the GST compliance. Welcome, sir.
Very welcome, and thanks for having me on the panel.
We have Sri Kodandaram MG, Indian Revenue Services, who is a retired Assistant Director of NESIN. He is one of the pillars of the conceptualization, formulation, and execution of the GST system in India. He is nationally sought after resource person in the field of GST. He has delivered thousands of insightful lectures on GST to a wide spectrum of audience. He has also published highly insightful papers in national journals and periodicals on various facets of GST. Today, we have Sir who will talk us on digital GST for tomorrow. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah. Two requests to all the participants. Many of you have already shared your questions related to GST that we will present to our speakers and get answers. Meanwhile, if you have any questions during the webinar, please post them in the Q&A section only, not in the comment box. Secondly, I request everyone to help us amplify this webinar on social media, by sharing your thoughts on the webinar. But while you do that, make sure to tag @SkySend Inc. and use the hashtags #eInvoicing and #SkySendPay. Thank you. With this, I would like to hand over the charge to Michael Kodinsky, the CEO of SkySendPay, who is the moderator for today's webinar. Over to you, Michael.
Pratik, thank you so much and welcome everyone. I'd like to invite our speakers to please turn on their cameras and give a wave to our audience here. And we will conduct this webinar in the following way. We're going to ask each of the speakers to come up one at a time and share on their topic. After which we will open up for some Q&A, and then we'll wrap up with a little video at the end. So with that, we will begin with Mr. Sumit Agarwal, who will be speaking to us on the broader concept of GST in India. The rest of you can switch off your cameras now. And Mr. Sumit, if you would, please speak to us about your experience. You work with lots of small, medium-sized, and large businesses, many of whom have been already working under the GST compliance protocols. Would love to hear from you about some of the experience you have as a fellow chartered accountant in serving these companies.
Sure. Thanks, Michael. Good evening, everyone. Let's understand the concept of invoice first. GST Council, in its 37th meeting, approved introduction of e-invoice in phased manner. On 1st October 2020, first phase was implemented, where e-invoice was made applicable for taxpayers with turnover greater than 500 crore in any preceding financial year, starting from financial year 2017-18. On 1st January 2021, next phase was implemented, where e-invoice extended to taxpayers with turnover greater than 100 crore. Later on, 1st April 2021, it was extended to taxpayers with turnover greater than 50 crore. First of all, the query is, what is e-invoicing? Is it an invoice in soft copy, that is PDF, or it is an invoice generated by a government portal? The answer is no. Invoice is nothing but registration of your tax invoices on the government portal. E-invoice is a system where the notified person has to prepare invoice by uploading specified particulars in prescribed form on invoice registration portal, that is IRP, and obtain invoice reference number, that is IRN. The invoice with QR code issued by the notified supplier to buyer is commonly referred to as e-invoice. It is important to mention that invoice is issued in any other manner shall not be treated as an invoice. So the document issued by notified person becomes legally valid only with an IRN. So the concept is invoice is still required to be generated from the existing accounting billing and ERP system as the companies are doing at present. The taxpayer needs to generate IRN with QR code from the portal and gets it print on its invoice. Now, understand the applicability of e-invoice, on which suppliers it is applicable, and what are the documents which are required to be reported on IRP. First of all, I will discuss about the suppliers. Supplies which are covered under invoicing are B2B supplies, that is business to business billing. Number 2, supplies to SEZ with or without payment. Number 3, exports. Number 4, deemed exports. Apart from that, other supplies are not supposed to be covered under e-invoicing system. That what will happen if B2C supplies are reported on IRP? In that case, IRP will reject the transaction, and also if it is repeatedly done by the taxpayer, then IRP will be blocked for that taxpayer. So we have to be very cautious about it. Also, the government has prescribed some sectors which are exempted from e-invoicing. These sectors are SEZ units, an insurer, a banking company, a financial institution, including an NBFC, goods transport agency services, passenger transportation services, services by way of admission to the exhibition of cinematographic films in multiplex, a government department, and local authority. Now the question arises whether SEZ developers are exempt from issuing the e-invoicing or not. Answer is no, they are required to issue e-invoices, since law only exempt SEZ units, not the developers. The next question is whether a taxpayer can amend the details in invoice post generation of IRN. Answer is no. Once IRN generated, amendment in invoice is not possible at IRP. However, IRN generated on IRP can be cancelled within 24 hours from the time of reporting of invoice to IRP. In case e-way bill is generated and it is active at the time of cancellation of IRN, then it is not possible to cancel the IRN. In that case, the remedy available would be to either issue debit note or credit note to rectify the error in invoice issued. It is pertinent to mention that once IRN cancelled, one more IRN cannot be generated for same invoice number. In case of cancellation of IRN, GSTR 1B updated with such cancelled status. Let me highlight here some of the key benefits to the SMEs or MSMEs of the e-invoice system. Number 1, it allows real-time auto-population of invoice details into GST returns, which saves time cost of the taxpayer. Secondly, it also has function to auto-populate the information in e-way bill, which again saves time cost as well as error while uploading the details on e-way bill portal. Important aspect of e-invoicing is that it gives boost to initiatives like invoice financing by enabling use of invoice as collateral, especially by small and medium businesses. It also reduces the issue related to reconciliations between books and GST returns. Overall, it will increase the business efficiency and eliminates risk of fake invoicing. This is all about e-invoicing and the benefits available to the SMEs. Over to you, Michael.
Sumit, thank you so very much. One question that we have that I think might be useful to hear, and this, by the way, has been fantastic already. Very, very great practical overview you've given us. What are the remedies available for the buyer in the case that a supplier is not uploading their GSTR1 or not doing it properly, perhaps?
So in that case, as I mentioned that when there is e-invoicing, right? So once the supplier upload the invoice detail on the IRP, it automatically generates the information not only in the GSTR1, but also in GSTR2A, which is the register of recipient, that is buyer.
Okay, fantastic. Not sure if you've spoken to this already. I'm not sure you have. How would you regenerate an e-invoice in case it was mistakenly canceled?
So you mean to say it has been cancelled or it is not cancelled?
It has been canceled, but then they realized they shouldn't have canceled it. It should have been issued altogether, from the beginning.
Okay, as I mentioned that once IRN has been cancelled, that means that particular invoice has been cancelled. In that case, the remedy is only to generate new invoice number with the correct information and get the new IRN number from the IRP port.
Got it. Okay, so it begins with a whole new number then. Okay, understood. Right. Mr. Agarwal, thank you so much. And to our audience, just a reminder, please submit your questions to us in the chat, and they can be directed to any one of the panelists or to the whole panel, and we will address them as best we can at the end. Thank you so much. And with that, I would like to invite Mr. Rohit Ambekar from Microsoft. Mr. Ambekar, thank you so much for joining us today. And so my understanding is that you're going to be speaking about blockchain and how blockchain applies to the e-invoicing, both now and as we look to the future. And I'm aware that Microsoft has rolled out probably one of the first, if not the first, enterprise grade blockchain solution. So hoping you'll share a little bit about that as you speak to us on blockchain and e-invoicing today. Thank you.
Absolutely, Michael. First of all, thanks a lot for inviting me. It was very nostalgic to listen to Sumit talk about a lot of this regulation, primarily because my background is also in, I'm a chartered accountant by background. But today I'm not speaking to you as a chartered accountant, advising on the business practices. This is more in the context of technology. How do you use technology to automate business processes? Or how do you use technology for driving efficiency, transparency in a business? So if you think about invoicing as a larger context, right? In the pure business sense, invoice, we see it as a vehicle for generating cash. Many of these businesses exist for cash generation, right? I mean, be it on a seller side, if you think about it, business exists for, the vehicle through which you're able to generate cash is through a valid invoice. And the inverse way of saying that is if you have a bad quality of invoice, or if the invoice has data errors, then just the dispute on your invoice will delay your cash flow. So in that sense, you can also think about the innovation that's going on in this space as also a driver of efficiency. Now, to your question on how does blockchain come into the play here, is our belief, at least looking forward, right, has been that the concept of blockchain is the concept of the same connectivity that we have experienced in the last 10 to 20 years. So if you think about your own email experience, how many businesses today send, the snail mail or the old way of sending mails, right? We all have moved toward digital experience. And the more you talk about the digital experience, the question is, would the business move towards a system to system relationship versus, islands of businesses doing businesses together via emails, sharing files, letters, stuff like that. So our core belief is that business eventually will move into what we call it as a hyper-connected ecosystem, which means that instead of businesses operating as different islands where the source of truth meaning, if you take just the concept of an invoice, if you say, look, the amount on an invoice, the quantity on an invoice, whatever are the details, the tax rate, right? So do you have a level of transparency, a level of connectivity between various ecosystems, because the days are gone where we are talking about a one-to-one relationship. In many business cases, it's a many-to-many relationship, right? I mean, if you take just an experience of shipping, you have multiple shippers, then you have distributors. By the time from a source to the place where the goods are finally received, let's say on the shelves of a retailer, there are so many people involved. And many of there is a cash transaction that is occurring, or the movement of the invoices occurring at multiple levels, right? So the question is then, how do we connect all these enterprises together so that you have one source of truth? You eliminate the need for reconciliation, validating, cross-checking the accuracies along the way, right? So that is where technologies like blockchain creates that hyper-connected enterprise, where you're talking about automating a lot of your processes. So that's the paradigm that we are in, I think.
Fantastic. Thank you. Wondering if you could speak to this question. It's kind of a broad one, but do you know how willing are our government bodies across the globe when it comes to adopting blockchain, just in general for various applications?
Yeah. Well, there are two ways in which you think about the blockchain. The one concept of blockchain that is becoming very popular these days in the context of the cryptocurrency. Now, the beauty of the cryptocurrency is it's not there yet, as we talk about, does cryptocurrency become a vehicle for cash settlement, or would it become an asset class in itself? We don't know, right? So to your question of China, if we take, for example, they have banned a lot of this crypto economy. So we don't know where this will evolve into, but the core technology of the technology of blockchain upon which this cryptocurrency is established, right? That is here to stay, at least based on what we are seeing. Because as I said, if you have to create a hyper-connected enterprise where the businesses are doing business, they're transacting with each other, the system-to-system integration is happening. There are not many technologies out there on the horizon that would achieve that system-to-system integration, keeping trust meaning, can you give me assurance that the data is not tampered along the way, right? Can you give me assurance that the contractual obligation that we have between you and I, saying that you shall send me goods on a certain date, and if the goods they are not received on a certain date, there are penal consequences at play here. So can we algorithmically enforce these contractual obligations between different legal entities? So these things are possible on blockchain. To your question on the government, we don't know if the cryptocurrency would become a reality as a means of exchange, value exchange. It's anybody's guess at this stage. But we can be very sure that the government all around the world, I mean, we see here in my job that, I mean, if you take China, Brazil, Mexico, right, they are becoming hyper vigilant. As I said, the cash is a means for sustenance for business. For government, it is exactly the same thing. Taxes are a means of sustenance for government. And they want to get involved more and more at a level of that point where the cash is generated. So we see the trend of government kind of becoming the third party in a two-party relationship, becoming a reality all over the world. And when we move into technology like blockchain, it works in favor of government, because you're talking about a tamper-proof, something that is traceable, that is immutable, right? A lot of the attributes of what this technology brings to bear works in favor of government too. So why would they not be interested in this technology?
That's a great point. Well, so to use a saying or a cliche, there's two sides to every coin. There's probably two sides to every Bitcoin and cryptocurrency as well. So with that said, do you foresee any challenges that blockchain might lead to? We see its benefits, but what could be potentially its pitfalls?
Look, I mean, you get the paradigm that we have to look back and then learn from is the internet. We had a lot of challenges. Hacking was one of the big, even today, as we speak, the hacking is a reality all over the world. So every good intention comes with unintended consequences, right? So one thing that we are seeing, even in the cryptocurrency world, at least, there is a lot of bad actors coming into the play. There is a lot of pilferation happening, defalcation happening. So these things, but the thing is, again, because of the cost of a few, you should not penalize them any. All right. So yes, there will be challenges. Absolutely. The one challenge that I speak, my own experience of deploying the world's first enterprise-grade blockchain solution, is we had to rip and replace the whole technology like 3 times since we started, because the speed at which technology has changed, right? It continues to change, and we are talking about an algorithmic scale here. It's not like changing from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. We are talking about 1 to 10, 10 to 100, 100 to 1,000. So that is the speed at which technology is moving, and what we built 2 years back is irrelevant as we speak today. So yes, the early adopters will have that cost to bear, but eventually, just like the internet, as it has stabilized substantially now, we will get to a point where the benefits of this technology will start accruing to the businesses.
Certainly not going to ask you to divulge any trade secrets from Microsoft, but is there anything you could share with us from a high level in terms of maybe what's in Microsoft's roadmap for deploying blockchain technology for other B2B applications, perhaps?
There are a lot of solutions out there. The blockchain, if you think about the concept as a whole, it is a platform play. What I mean by platform play is it is an enabler. These technologies are enablers, right? You can deploy this for solving your supply chain challenges. You can deploy this for, as we speak, in the invoicing section. You can deploy this, the place where we have deployed is licensing of intellectual properties. So there are many places, as long as the core tenets of a relationship, that is, you have a dependency on one source of truth. The one source of truth can be, did you ship the same products that I asked you to ship? Or the one source of truth can be, are you holding yourself to the contractual agreement that you and I have established with each other, right? So whatever is the core source of truth, that is open for interpretation, but you can algorithmically code that into a mathematical relationship, which saying then if 10,000 units are shipped, then I shall pay you $10,000 rupees or whatever it is. So as long as you can translate your relationship into a transactable smart contract, we call it, you should be able to deploy the solution.
Fantastic. Mr. Amarkar, thank you so much for your contributions here on blockchain in particular. With that, I'd like to invite our next speaker, Mr. Ram Iyer. Mr. Ram, sir, thank you and welcome. As we shared before, you are the founder and CEO of Ayana Network, which is not only the largest supply chain finance network in India, but also the largest provider as a GSP of e-Invoicing portal to the GSTN. So would love for you to speak to us about how how you work as GSP with ASPs and just your experience in facilitating these solutions for the MSMEs.
Right. First of all, thanks for having me on the panel. And it's been obviously great collaborating with Hisense, and wish you guys all the success as you launch off today. From a GSTN perspective, when they first launched out this whole idea of a GSP, their intention really was that there would be no difference between a GSP and an ASP. They just thought all GSPs would be ASPs. And, that was their initial assumption that nobody would want to be a GSP just for GSP by being a GSP. I think what we saw in the market is that we saw the GSP business as an infrastructure business. We saw it as absolutely crucial to kind of capture and be available and be a reliable service for everybody who wants to file a GST return or e-invoicing or e-way bill or whatever it is. And we said that we would let a lot of players, whether like Skysend or managed services outfits like Arthur Anderson or an PwC or even MSME outfits, to be able to kind of have an absolutely reliable and available infrastructure to ensure that they could provide their customers peace of mind about filing returns on time, generating e-way bills and e-invoices on time. So I think that's the strategy we adopted. And so we probably are the only neutral GSP player in the country. which means that we don't have an ASP of our own. We actually work with ASPs as their infrastructure provider, and that's allowed us to kind of do multiple things. So the first thing I just want to kind of, put some numbers out there. Just to take e-invoices, we started in October of 2020. We already passed 500 million e-invoices generated in this country. I mean, take a country like India and think about it. In about 7 months, we've just kind of jumped a tremendous amount of volumes, right? In e-invoicing. The second thing is that the companies that are using it today are generating e-invoices at all times of the day because of the nature of their business. As they're generating, if you're a dairy firm that's supplying milk, for example, you're probably generating invoices at 2:30 a.m. If you are an oil and marketing company and you're loading up, tankers with fuel, you're probably doing it at about 4:30 in the morning, right? So you practically are generating invoices at all times of the day. And as I think Sumit mentioned and Rohit mentioned, invoicing is absolutely the fundamental, reason for businesses to, kind of show they exist. Obviously one has to translate an invoice to cash, but the invoice is basic mechanism of recognizing revenue. And no company or no enterprise, however small, large they are, would ever want their invoices not to happen, right? So at 2:30 in the morning, you don't want to kind of, be ready to create an invoice and figure out you can't get an e-invoice out of it. And that brings us actually to the biggest challenge really, and that India has kind of gone into. And I think, all of us, Sai and Ayana, all of us have to work on, is that we actually have now a systemic risk issue that if for any reason e-invoicing did stop, even for an hour, you could actually cause quite a lot of damage. Because once e-invoicing stops, you don't have e-way bills, and you don't have e-way bills, then trucks can't move out on the road, and goods can't get shipped, and so you actually can bring the country to an halt for about an hour if you wish. Now one might say that, okay, why if it's just down for an hour, maybe you can just start after the hour, but all of these things kind of have a domino effect. So I think we have a huge responsibility actually to keep the system working. And working well. And I think that's really where Ayana is really focused all its attention of, just to make sure from an infrastructure play perspective, we've just built in so many redundancies that we can allow, ASPs like SkySend and others to kind of not worry too much about, whether they'll be connected or not, or whether they'll be actually be able to generate for their customers their e-invoicing. So I think that's the second point. I think the third point that is there is that India's infrastructure is actually expanding. So we talked about GST, we talked about e-way bills, we talked about e-invoicing. We just now rolled out something like Plaid that you might be familiar with, but it's like a huge decacon coming out of US, which basically connects banks and allows you to kind of aggregate bank statements across multiple financial institutions and various other financial records. In India, we just converted that to a public infrastructure, right? So it's now available to everybody. I mean, everybody within reason. And then we have things like public credit registry. So, if you again take the US example in mind of UCC classifications, make that real time, make that available at an invoice level, and you suddenly have an whole new world of, being able to, at any point in time, figuring out how much of, the invoices are under lien, which invoices have been pledged already, which invoices you have no right on, and if you have a right on it, to kind of register your right. So we have a whole number of, interesting infrastructure getting rolled out, already rolled out, or getting rolled out. And I think one of the reasons why people like Ayana would be very crucial in this is that we need to kind of provide that availability and reliability to all participants to make use of those infrastructures. And I think that's really the role that we have kind of set ourselves to. And, I think we have, as I think Prateek was mentioning, we are the largest guys in this business. And our intention really is not the largest, is not the most important, but we want to be just operating at 5 nines of availability and reliability for all our customers. And obviously, as a supply chain finance player, I think we recognize the importance of e-invoicing even more, because now this becomes a verified, deduplicated document that people can use to kind of create cash flow models. They can use to create financing solutions on, and maybe someday, like Rohit mentioned, use DeFi infrastructures and contractual smart contracts and a whole bunch of other applications on the top of it. So I think we are also personally very, as a company, we're very, very interested in the e-invoice as a document, the e-invoice and e-way bill as a document, and trying to kind of make sure that we can kind of scale up the whole thing. The last point I think I want to make is that having said all this, we just have about roughly about 20 million, enterprises registered under GST. give or take a few million, a few hundred thousands, right? Now, but India has about, presumably, nobody's actually done a census, about 70 million enterprises. So if you really want to kind of get to the remaining 50 million, and it would be 40 million or 30 million, but it's a huge number anyway. I think that's the next big challenge for us, is that how do we kind of penetrate this whole GST, e-Invoice network all the way through to the smallest of the enterprises, and then try and figure out how all of them can get formalized, which means that credit can flow easily, payment solutions can flow easily, bank accounts can be opened easily, and therefore you can grow your business. So, you know, I think, you know, the drip irrigation lines have been laid. It's our job, like SkySend, Ayana, and everybody else on this panel, to actually put water through the pipeline and make sure a lot of plants grow. So I think that's really our role here.
Fantastic, sir. And yeah, thank you for all the proactive work of realizing the domino effect that could happen if God forbid, you know, something were to go down, and all your work behind the scenes to protect against that happening. One question I have for you in particular is, do you see countries coming along on the international platform when it comes to adopting a GST that's inclusive of international and international trade?
So I think the intent is there. You know, just now we have seen an incredible piece of taxation getting agreed upon by a number of countries, G20 countries. You know, I think that's a very interesting. I do not think the jury, you know, there will be a lot of betting in favor of that happening. So if that's happened, or at least near agreement has happened. So I would suspect that, you know, one can't rule out a standardized protocol for GST on cross-border trade. But having said that, I just think the politics may not allow it to happen so easily. You know, there is just too many elements of, you know, we already have an old amount of tariffs being laid against people who, you know, are supposed to be dumping goods. We believe that the costs are not well covered. So just assume in the GST world, you know, I mean, a lot of those are the inputs to the GST system. So I would just suspect that the politics and the general level of distrust between multiple trading partners will probably not allow it to become an immediate solution. But having said that, I think, you know, one of the interesting things that's happening, and I was just in a seminar just before this one, was on CBDC, the central bank digital currency. And, you know, we have about 20 odd countries doing a pilot or, you know, beginning their work in that. And I suspect that in probably about a couple of years, that might become the unifying base for a number of these things to happen. Because when currency becomes digital, and, you know, it is essentially the paper currency become digital, but it'll be digital on top of a blockchain platform, what Rohit was talking about, right? And you probably will have things on it on the digital platform on the payment side, you know, and accompanied by e-invoicing. You probably can now start building an whole number of applications that, you know, fintechs like you and Ayana Network will probably be very interested in building. So I suspect that unlike governments getting into cross-border trade and GST, I think the push will actually come from an whole bunch of innovative players like us from the edges, mounting a guerrilla warfare and forcing governments to kind of adopt. You know, I mean, CBDC would not have existed without, including the dark actors. Right. I mean, what you know, I mean, it is like most of the biggest advances in technology have actually been first picked up by two of the sin industries. And therefore, I would suspect that blockchain and crypto has been picked up by a couple of sin industries. But that's the way the dice rolls. So I would suspect that even in the cross-border GST side, you're going to see some pretty, you know, smart fintechs kind of forcing this whole way. You know, governments to rethink how they're kind of doing their stuff. And that'll be very interesting. So.
Mr. Iyer, thank you so much for your contributions and your insights, given how much experience you have serving the companies who are using your portal for their e-invoicing. With that, I'd like to welcome up our fourth and final speaker, last but certainly not least, Mr. Conundrum, MG. Sir, you've got recently retired from over 40 years of government service. And my understanding was you were the assistant director for the National Academy of Customs, Excise, and Narcotics. So you've seen quite a few things in your days. We're eager to hear, not only were you one of the foundational sort of developers of the GST here in India, but we'd love to hear your thoughts on the digital GST for tomorrow. You know, what you see, how you see this heading into the future. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, listeners. In fact, as far as GST is concerned, I have played my very small role in bringing nearer to the people who have to practice it, That's what I have done. Nothing more. Let me tell you. I have reached the maximum people possible, conversing in GST language to them, teaching them how to implement the GST. That has been happened because the 4 decades of service I had. Today I will start my talk going into the history. Sir, why history? It is said history repeats because man never learns. Women may learn, we don't know. Only man will not learn. So that's the problem. How to learn, unlearn, and relearn means what is the method we came out, where we have reached is very, very important, and how we have to tread further. So very important thing is to look back, take the best practices outward, and leave off the bad weight, and be again ready for the fresh journey. And then it will be easier for us to know what is the way forward. Isn't it? What are the problems we faced? Can we minimize that problem? Can we go up, galloping again up? That's what I try to give. Getting back to my yesterday, in the sense, the past. We started the career with license Raj. Now, as on today, we have registration method. Online registration, totally free. Earlier, licensing system, every moment, every couple of years, you have to renew. Today, nothing, just play online and get your registration and start your business. So it's a very easy way out. We have brought the taxpayer comfortably on the platform, right? Second aspect, from the physical control, the gate pass days I keep on telling. Every document has to be visited by the officer, signed by the officer. From there on, today, we have developed e-Invoice solutions, which you people have explained in last 3 talks. So we know how it is easier. No need of interference by the officer on day-to-day business. I don't have to, as an officer, visit you, give you signature and permit you. It's all, I can say, it is self-assessment. Earlier, it was physical assessment. Now it is, we have liberalized into self-assessment, where you are given all the powers to assess yourself, pay the tax, register yourself, pay the tax, make your assessment, file your return, and relax, do your business. If you have to get a refund, yes, on time you shall get the refund. Otherwise, we will pay you refund interest. That's what the statute says, as well as the tax administration says. Then from there, if you go, we went for a pro forma credit, where only limited credits was given. Later on, we went to SENVAT, ModVAT, SENVAT. Now VAT also developed from the state. Both of them merged. Now we have a ITC system, which is a seamless credit system, where we are trying to eliminate the cascading effect in the tax. There should not be tax on tax. That's the aim. That has been more or less getting achieved by removing these hurdles, bringing a smooth flow. The other aspect is, we were asking you to pay upfront. If you want to clear the goods, you pay the tax, debit it in the personal ledger account, and then we will allow. Today, from that, we have moved. You, whatever business you do in 1 to 30th, you pay us by 20th of next month. So there is deferment of payment of tax, which has eased the work. So you can see all this is easing the business, liberalizing the business, democratizing the business. Yes, earlier we were autocratic. From autocratic stage, we have moved to democratic stage. Means administration to facilitators. As an administrator to a facilitator, I am moving in this region. You look into the penal positions also. Earlier, penalty was very harsh. Today, we have a self-penalizing method. You have done a wrong, you pay the tax with interest. Forget it. They are matters. No notices will be given. Further, if there is a bona fide mistake, only interest will be collected. If there is a mala fide intention, we will also assign you penalty rates. 15% penalty, 25% penalty. You determine yourself, pay it, no further litigation. Means it is not only a self-assessment scheme, it's also a self-penalizing scheme. You are the person who is making the law, means citizen is the person who is making the law. Each one of us are the rulers. Each one of us are ruled. We are making law to be implemented by us. The law is made by us. It is implemented by us. If you do any violations, we ourselves penalize. That's what the method is all about. It's about the civic aspects where we have to follow the rules made by us. We should not violate. Fine. Similarly, we have, I can go on talking on that. Let us not worry. But when you look in what this has brought, first let us note. Now we have increased facilitation. Now nobody worries as e-invoice, even at early morning, 2 o'clock, as Sumis ji was telling, could be raised. You can have e-way bill 24/7. You can run your business 24/7 from any part of the country, any part of the world, I can say. So that's the advantage you have. Then you have transparency. Use of blockchain, as our another speaker, Mr. Rohit was telling. So there, transparency plays a role. And the third aspect is increased in tax collection with very less expenditure to the government. Government need not spend much. Today, the cost of collection has reduced because of these digital platforms that are provided. The erstwhile expenditures have been minimized to the government. Fourth, it's very, very negative. In spite of all this, there's an increased litigation. There we need to look in how to avoid litigation. The other one is increase in tax frauds. Sir, you said it's a voluntary scheme, trustworthy scheme, transparency scheme. You hold up everything, you made it democratic. We will make the law, we are the rulers, we are the ruled. But now you are talking about frauds. Yes, here frauds also have become totally democratic. Very unfortunate. I don't want to misuse that word, but that's what's happening. Today, I'll give 1 or 2 small examples. You have liberalized the registration. Now, shell companies are being created. The shell companies, without clearing goods, are making documents. Document raising an invoice is for getting money, and that money being churned again. I can go on speaking on that frauds. Every day, everyone would have reported. I think maximum cases have been done, detected, and now we are following it up. That's also increasing. That's the trend. That's the danger we have. So what we said, oh, it is not registration allowed freely. Now we will introduce verification. Again, you see, we went to the old lessons. We said we will not allow any new man to register with us unless his Aadhaar is verified or his face is verified, his businesses are owned. Then we went for e-way bill attached with RFID tags, so that really there is a clearance, I'll be able to do. So there we have to look into a medium, not simply say there is a solution I will adopt. No, never. You should look back and try to take the lessons from the history. Then only you can tread forward. Otherwise, we will be having a lot of frauds. So looking into this now, I should give a way, a digital way, because the earlier paper pen tradition is gone. Now you have to look into be a virtual man, a man from the cyber society. You are not a citizen now, according to me. You are a netizen. You are a netizen in the cyber society. And cyber frauds, dark nets, they are causing more danger. As Rohit ji was telling, it's very, very dangerous game. No doubt you can be faster, but fraud can be much faster than this. So there you have to have steps, calculated steps, because we have to collect the money, generate the money for the public exchequer, country's exchequer. So there we have to move towards citizen-centric activities. What are the things possible? E-invoice, yes, you know, you can develop, you can unfurl for everyone, herald everybody, yeah, everybody can take, yes, fine. But there, one word of caution. The tax is not paid by the registered taxpayer. It is the consumer who is the bearer of the tax. It is the consumer, you, me, every one of us. We should be given a facility to check the tax paid by me has reached the coffers of the nation. Means when you develop a e-invoice, that should be visible to the citizen, the concerned citizen. Towards that, we need to make a solution. For example, if I buy a small item, he gives me a bill, that e-invoice or whatever you call, whether it is genuine, whether tax paid by me has reached my country. Yes, if it is a tax paid by me to the development of my country and it has reached the treasury, I'm more happy. I'll be an inclusive democratic person. I'll be more encouraged to pay tax. But there, we need to look in. We have to concentrate on the citizen. We need to give him a person. Then one of the method could be, whatever invoices you get, you can upload them and we will centralize it, keep it somewhere. And when we take up for assessment, we will verify with you. That kind of arrangement need to be done. Technologically, it is possible. And one of our friends also have done it earlier. So those things need to be adopted to bring back the confidence of the citizens. Earlier, citizens went away. They're avoiding payment of taxes. Today, it is not, because historically, we were paying taxes that was driven away to the other country. Today, my taxes are utilized in my country. Today, I am able to fight a better fight. This one in the COVID-19, because of my taxes accumulated. I may pay more tax, doesn't matter. It's for my countrymen. So that kind of things will come there. We need to see that every money collected from the public goes to the public exchequer. In that regard, we need to fill the gap. There, technology is the development required, other than the one which you have. And I think lost 1 minute I have, okay? Non-intrusive checks must be there. I always say, never trust the untrustworthy. How to find out? You have to have a risk-based parameters. You have to do remotely check them, control them, whether it's done as per the law. If he is complying with the law, certify him. That's what this government has done now recently, isn't it? We have to certify, recommend them, make them good citizens. So this is how we need to develop. So for me, the plans are e-invoice solution should become popular, this one for everyone. Then integration of electronic invoice in the backend system. Once I generate an invoice, again, it should synchronize with my accounting systems. So here I should not struggle. That kind of problem. And I must be able to generate my one. Similarly, department should not ask me to file the return, because whatever returns I am filed, it can be made up from them, and using auto-populated methods, they can give me back and I can cross-check with my output, so that I will save time. I will save manpower. That's another aspect you can look into. And for me, as an investigator, I'm finding it very, very difficult. It may be equally important for the party. The last point is, earlier investigation was fingerprint investigation. Today, it is cyber forensic investigation. It's very, very difficult for me to prove in a court of law every aspect of the evidence, and whatever evidence we prove, forensically it may not be possible, and as per the Evidence Acts, there we are finding very difficult. Secondly, another aspect there is, when I used to have a physical document, I used to spend months together to verify the document invoice. Today it is not. Today it is a virtual one, and virtual one can be kept in a password protection. It can be kept, I think some of the techniques are it can be pseudonymous, or they can stenogram, some name they use. And let me look into the terminology. I'm growing old. What shall I do?
While you look into that, I'd like to invite our other panelists up here.
Something like that. There, now it has become like finding a pin in a haystack. So I should get a tool, forensic audit for the chartered accountants also. Forensic methodology where they can find out only for technological problems. Technology can only be the solution. So the solution also should come from technology. So in that area, finding out digital tools. There are recently e-evidences like that I read in some of the international papers very recently, how they are trying to develop and what are the different methodologies the criminals are using. Can we go outwit them and catch them before they can execute their plans? So in that way, things need to be drawn. Another last aspect, if I have time, I'll complete it. 1 minute, I'll take it. That is the privacy war that is coming now. The privacy war, the data privacy is creating a kind of a revolution the world over. Let it be GDPR or California or US laws or the very coming now, I think in India, we should be having in a couple of weeks, a passing of a act, personal privacy bill, that is personal data protection bill. I don't want to go to the problems there, that privacy items are also existing in these technological things. It can be while raising a e-invoice, it may be having some certain private data. There, privacy principles need to be adapted. There is another field that is developing, commercial data, which is non-personal data. There it can be exploited. When you get this invoices data, whether it could be regulated. These are all the things that need to be looked into for the future of digital technology and its applications to the taxes, according to my view. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, and fantastic. With that, I'd like to invite all the panelists up just for a moment here. We're virtually out of time, so we will not do an interactive Q&A, but just to show yourselves one more time, and we'll give you a virtual electronic high five. Thank you. Namaste. Thank you so much for your input. I think we may have to have a session number 2 for this. Obviously, there's a lot of questions we were not able to address today. We'll find a way to do that in the near future here. But clearly, an amazing array of perspectives that you've offered here today for something. And I like how Mr. Conundrum said, we're really moving from being citizens to netizens, and really uniting as a whole and thinking about things like taxes not as a penalty, but as something that is serving all of humanity. And so therefore, let's really as a community come together and realize that and work towards the betterment of all in India and of course across the world. So thank you all so much. Again, we're very thankful for your time and your expertise and offering up your insights this evening or morning, depending upon where we are. Thanks once again. With that, I'd like to mention just briefly, I am the CEO of SkySend Pay. SkySend Pay is a company that SkySend Inc. developed a platform called SkySend Pay, which is really an electronic invoicing management and vendor management system that's built on blockchain. And specifically here, if we may actually put up a slide, we've created now, and this event today is really here to kind of celebrate and launch a portal, a public portal for all of India for e-invoicing. And so please feel free to make a note of our login page, as well as an informational page where you can learn more about it. But this, we believe, is the first of its kind, where any business owner can log in, create a profile simply and easily, and be able to upload e-invoices, e-way bills, and all of using our platform in partnership with Ayana as our GSP partner. Everything is on the blockchain network here, so it will have that single source of truth and immutable record of transactions. So we're excited to be part of this wave of creating the technology that's going to change and serve the MSMEs, the large and small companies in India, and of course beyond their borders for the international trade that they do. With that, we've got just a quick 1-minute video we'd like to share with you as we wrap up our webinar today. Thank you again for joining us. Once again, just a special thank you for all of our attendees. Thank you for joining us today on this webinar about e-invoicing under the GST. And again, a very special thank you to all of our speakers, presenters, and contributors for your valued expertise and insights. Thank you all. Have a good evening.